Hello and welcome to the Aten Inquisition, where we spend a little bit of time getting to know the people of Atenveldt. We're your hosts, Morgan and Elizabeth, King and Queen during these times of plague. This evening, our guests are their Excellencies Valdisa and Wolff. Your Excellencies.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
So just to introduce ourselves, we are the 13th Baroness and Baron of Sundragon.
Fantastic. So I feel terrible because you guys stepped up just in time to learn how to be virtual for everything.
Don't feel bad, Your Majesty. It has been a nice segue. We weren't thrown into the fire.
That's fair.
See, and for me, it's the other way. It feels like being thrown into the fire, having to figure out how to do this job virtual. So, how did you guys find the SCA?
Okay. I had heard about it years ago from other friends that were interested, but I had never actually gone out to an event. And then just over a decade ago now, we went out to the Highlands Games, and the SCA had some demonstrations going on there. So we went over there, watched that, and I saw that and I went, that's what I have to do. And that's pretty much how we got into it. Talked to them, the people there, found out where the local baronies are, where we lived, and which our local was Sundragon. And we started going to practices at that point. And really, that's how it got the ball rolling for us.
So we actually showed up at practice in mid-February, and we were told, we want you here, but come back in about 2 weeks because we have a really big event coming up next weekend.
So welcome, and just stick a pin in that for a minute. So you guys have been playing about a decade?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
And lived in Atenveldt that whole time, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yep.
And Sundragon the whole time.
So do you have a favorite story from when you started playing?
I think you had a couple.
We have a few. One of my favorites was we had just started playing, and Dame Jeppa had went back east to spend the summer with her grandchildren. So when she came, during that time, we went to Michael's. The kids and I went to Michael's, and we bought some of those grab bags. I think we spent $5 or $10 there, and we brought them home, got through them, and there were a whole bunch of paper mache frogs. And so the kids and I painted them up. We had no idea what to do with them. When Dame Jeppa came back, we flocked her, basically. We had people delivering the frogs the whole event. We even had someone sneak it in and put one under her pillow. And at this time, we were still very new. We didn't know the protocols for anything, but we knew Dame Jeppa would not be upset if we skirted something. She came back later and told us how much it meant to her because she didn't think anyone had noticed she had left.
Oh.
And if you know Dame Jeppa, you know that is completely the opposite. So that was one of my favorite memories from early on. We realized that shenanigans did have a place.
Oh, yes.
So did you have your own?
Some of mine revolve around actually teaching my kids to fight, either through rapier or in the hard suit arena. And it was watching my daughter when she had just turned 16, Scorpion, one of the squires, that he just was not expecting that from my daughter, because she's not a tall girl. She's just over 5 foot. So she's 5'4" or so, but just coming over and scorpioning him, and just the look on his face, like, that's not supposed to happen to me. Yeah. So that's one of my better ones, just because most of mine revolve around my kids in one way or another.
Huh, that's good.
Yeah.
So even though you just got to put them away for a while, Tell us about your heraldry and if it has any meaning for you.
Go ahead. You go first.
All right. My heraldry is a German imperial eagle. So that's a two-headed eagle on a red and black quartered background. And that just goes into the persona that I chose, which is 1300s German. And that's because I can actually trace my family name back to that time period. So all I did was I took a variation of my family name into my current one that I'm using. And then I looked at that time period and what was there in Germany and everything. And so I just adopted that. And then the color schemes that I have actually were from when I was in the military. My old unit had those color schemes. So that's just sort of something I pulled into what I had.
Nice.
So for me, mine is a dragonfly and a lotus, which is very Asian. It's more personal to me mundanely than it is my persona in the SCA. My persona in the SCA is actually 12th or 13th century Icelandic. I wanted to go Norse originally, and then I decided there was a lot of Valdises in the area, so I wanted the A on the end just to be a little different. And so I had to time hop just a little bit to get the name.
I love it. Wow. Okay. So, and sort of in line with having to put away your personal heraldry and all of that while you're seated, you also end up a lot of times putting your personal goals sort of to the side while you're being Baron and Baroness. Notwithstanding, what are your personal goals within the SCA?
Well, one of the main ones was to become Baron and Baroness, because there are certain things you cannot do otherwise. Certain leadership decisions that can only be made from a coronet or from the crown. Mm-hmm. So this was a major one for me.
And then for me, sort of my personal goals, besides becoming Baron with my wife, was actually I just started up actually the Knight's Path about a year before we ran for B&B. So I started that path, and then this was the direction we were going, because there were things we are far more involved in our barony than in a household or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So we saw there were things that we wanted to do for the barony. So we stepped up for that. And that hasn't stopped my path, but it's placed it on hold temporarily.
It does that a little bit.
Yes. And then I'll continue. Once I step down, I will continue that path.
So if it helps at all, you'll hear a lot of people tell you that being Baron will hurt your chances in your goal, and other people will tell you that it can help accelerate your path. They're both correct. It really it's a matter of how you approach the task. Mm-hmm. I think you really can use it to springboard you forward, because you get to be in the forefront. Everybody gets to know who you are. So you get the fast track. That's one of the hardest things when you're a squire. If nobody knows you, right, is getting known. Well, you've taken care of that. Everybody will know who you are.
True.
So now you get to just control what they get to know you for. Mm-hmm. So in your time, you've both been, involved in different jobs and arts. Is there anything that you're especially proud of that you've accomplished or done?
I know you have a bunch.
I love art. And I love facilitating other people to do art. I love giving largesse as well. We did the 101 puppies a few years ago. And we've done a few things like that. But the last one that I'm proud of is the Vanguard tourney at Estrella.
Yes.
We started that 2 years ago for the Hardsuit Fighters to have something to do on Wednesday.
Yes, there really isn't much going on by then.
So we started that. We've already reached out to the rapier community. We want to make sure that their early bird tournament goes off this year as well. So hopefully there will be plenty of fighting this November.
We can hope.
But yeah, and she has a tendency to be modest. She's actually involved in multiple of the arts, and she does teach when she can and tries to get people involved. I think your Majesties have a pair of her goblets that she's made, so she's still going down that path. But yeah, so that's her passion, and it's not one art. It's, I think we have 9 of them going. So yeah. And then for me, I've just always been drawn to the fighting aspect of it, as well as the service. I do like helping out. I'm not necessarily the forefront of things. I'll do the background stuff. Oh, this needs to get done. That needs to get done. I'll just go and get it done. And then I do dabble a little bit in the arts because, well, I can't help it. I just sort of get pulled along on some of those things. But yeah, so I'm pretty much dabbling in a little bit of everything with my main concentration on the nightly races at the moment.
Nice. So you sort of touched on this, but is there anything that you love doing that's not your normal chosen path? So, for example, Your Excellency himself, not something on the fighting path, or herself, not something on the arts path.
Actually, for me, I have just lately actually started doing some of the wood turning. So I'm actually starting to make some of the goblets myself. I think that's some of the things where, you just get pulled into some of the arts by being with somebody that is so into everything. And I've dabbled in stained glass. Nice. I've dabbled in bead making, and now in leather working. I make leather water bottles, and I'm trying to make leather pouches. So I'm doing a lot of dabbling in the arts. I haven't found one yet that is truly calling to me, but I know it's out there.
Okay.
Kind of the same thing. I'm being pulled into the fighting aspects of things. We've done archery and thrown weapons in the past. I've almost got a kit ready for rapier. I have the last piece is stuck in New Hampshire with the post office somewhere. So again, November, hopefully.
Don't get caught up.
You'll have fun on the rapier field.
So I know you kind of touched on a little bit, but tell me about something that you've never done that you'd like to try.
That's a bigger. Oh, okay.
Rapier and hard suit.
No, that's good.
I don't want to be hit though, especially not by someone like you, Your Majesty.
I don't hit hard.
So what would you say that you are known for? What would people tell us that they know you for?
Probably the biggest one is baronial support. We do try to do as much as we can to support Sundragon, especially through the crafts. We actually donate significant amounts of largesse. And we're actually trying to continue that and expand on that. We definitely try to reach out to people and get them into that as well, get more excited about that. And that's, again, one of the reasons we became B&B is because we did want to focus on growing the barony, expanding the barony, and seeing if we can pull more people in. We just had the misfortune of having, the plague year upon us. So hopefully once that's gone, some of our plans can actually start bearing fruit.
Nice.
Before we step down, I would like us to be known for inclusion, especially in our barony. That's, I think, a big one. Not everyone has a place in the SCA, but I want to be known as the place. I don't know how to word it.
Place for anyone.
And, yeah.
Anyone. Everyone and anyone is accepted always.
But I think we're already there. I just want to continue escalating that.
Well, and the best way to do that is from the position you're in now, because, we lead by example. So,
yep. Yes, sir.
Definitely a good place to start. So, what advice would you give to a potential new member?
Do you want to take?
I'll take this one. There is perfection in imperfection. I think when we first started, there was a lot of pressure I put on myself to meet a certain standard that as a new person trying to make garb for 5 people was not obtainable. And that was okay. And it took a long time to get to the point where that was okay. If I could, I would stay home and hand weave my clothes, hand sew them with a bone needle. But, we have to work for a living. So we have to go with the serger and we have to go with store-bought stuff. And that is okay.
Yeah. And always remember, this is about having fun. If
Right.
you're losing sight of having fun, you need to reevaluate. Are you doing too much at that point? Because really, we all need to be doing this from a point of just absolute joy and
Right.
fun. And
if you're not, why? Why are you here if you're not having fun?
Agreed.
Well, I think people forget that failure is okay.
Yes.
I can tell you, like on the fighting fields, I'm far more inspired when I'm losing fights because it means I have stuff to work on.
Mm-hmm.
So, Your Majesties, if we change this up just a moment, what advice do the two of you have for a new person?
Don't be afraid. Go and talk to people.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of the hat, the guy wearing the big shiny hat. I have yet to meet somebody in the SCA that doesn't love to talk about what we're passionate about. And I hear all the time, that, you're just, that person's too intimidating. I can't go talk to him. Like, ask a question. You'll see.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I would say, take your time and get to try all the different things, from service to fighting to art. There's so much to try and so many things to do. There's no need to, rush to a finish line, to just jump in and be very single-minded. Like, I think that if you do that, you lose out on meeting a lot of people and learning a lot of new things. Like, I would have told you before we were in the SCA that I'm not an artistic person. But evidently that isn't true anymore. So I think it's important that people, really just give it all a try and see what's out there. And I think that sometimes you can surprise yourself.
I had to laugh a little because I have seen your art. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you. So who inspires the two of you?
Do you want to go? I'm going to talk a while.
Go for it. Talk a while.
So when we first started, it was definitely the peers, mostly the peers of Sundragon, because that's what we were exposed to. It was the Thanes, the band Thanes, Deb, Diego,
Robert Teresa,
West Vi. Yes, they were so inspirational. But it was also all of the peers, Master Raven, Mistress Terrell, Mistress Cecily, Captain Lon, all of those peers, Master Simon, for different reasons, for their fighting, for their expertise. But as we've aged in the SCA, a lot of the non-peers are also very inspiring. I watch a lot of people that work behind the scenes, day in, day out. Our ex-checker, our seneschal, our social media officer is on our group almost every day trying to get people involved. We have belly dancers and we have all sorts of people doing all the things and making sure that when we can get together, they're ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the one thing I have found being in the SCA, and I see it more now as Baron, is that literally, if you just look around, you can pretty much be inspired by almost everyone. I really don't see anybody that doesn't inspire me some way because of the things they do, the efforts they put in, the little things that they may think aren't being seen, but we do see and we do appreciate.
And even the people that are taking a break, because there are a lot of people that do a lot leading up to an event and go to an event, and that is their break. And sometimes it's so hard to disengage from that work mentality that watching people just relax and enjoy themselves is also inspiring.
Look, you can do that.
Yes.
I'm not sure that I can do that.
I could do that, maybe.
So how are you two staying busy during this pandemic?
Yes, we are all very busy. Actually, for us, we do have a standing Tuesday meeting for the barony. It used to be our normal scribes day for scribal. Then we went virtual. We kept that. We opened up a Zoom meeting for it. And then now what we've done is just open that up to as a general meeting day for the whole barony, that if anybody wants to join, they can. And our social media officer is really good about making sure that's advertised. The link is always up. And I try to be on there every week. I'm on there probably 3 out of 4 weeks on average. But it's there. It's there for people. And I do try to make, like I said, be on there enough that I'm available if somebody wants to ask me a question in person, not through email or something like that, that I'm there and available. And then we do have our crafts and stuff we're doing, and that, prepping for largesse, not sitting down, not doing anything. But so we're slowly building up a stockpile of stuff.
And we've done 3 virtual events last year. We also had our carriage procession. I did not post the pictures, but it was wonderful just seeing everyone drive by. We gave out soap and masks. So we had about 80 bars of handmade soap, some in the baronial colors. We had about 80 masks with the logo, with our war dragon on them.
See, like I said, soap, another craft that she just picked up.
As you do.
So, and we have other plans that hopefully you'll see when we can come back together.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's awesome.
So, are there any traditions that you feel like we've lost over the years that you would like to see come back?
When we first started, there was a large. There were a lot of people escorting.
Okay, that's right.
It was hard to go to the privy across the way without someone saying you need an escort. And at the time, it was actually irritating. I'm like, I can see the privy from here. I don't need an escort. But as years have gone on, I've noticed that has diminished. And it would be nice to see some of that come back. Maybe not that much, but maybe someone saying, would you like me to escort you to merchants? Or some things along
and I have noticed that seems to be something that has fallen a little bit by the wayside. I don't see that as much. I see a lot of ladies now walking around without escorts always. And that's not saying that there's an issue with that. It's just I was used to, when we first started, you always saw somebody escorting all the ladies everywhere. And that's something we don't see quite as often, I think, as we used to.
Yep. I would agree with you.
Yeah. And sadly, I think some of that is you get some women that are like, I don't need an escort.
Yes.
And then it gets to the point where people are afraid to ask anymore. But
and I will admit, 8 years ago, that I was that person. I'm like, I'm balanced. I'm good.
Like I'm an adult, I can handle my business. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what it is, right? Is some people have forgotten that it goes in line with what we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. It's part of the recreation, right? I mean, you wouldn't have walked alone.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think maybe one, just sort of anecdotally, when we were B&B, somebody had said to me that, sort of along those lines where like, I just need to go to the priv. I can handle that for reals. And somebody said, Your Excellency, that's part of their dream, to be able to guard you or be a lady in waiting or what have you. It's not for you, it's for them. And that was just sort of a really interesting perspective shift for me. So I totally get it, because I am 100% that guy that's like, I can carry my own bag. I can walk to the priv, it's a two-way street there for sure.
So what traditions in this kingdom are your favorite?
Our favorites? Oh, we were just discussing this last night.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, good. Well, all right. For me, I like the tradition that the king crowns himself. And then our king is not, chosen by a committee or anything like that. They are crowned in their own right. And for me, and like I said, that comes from my warrior perspective. That appeals to that in my nature. So for me, that's a really great tradition that I like.
And not necessarily a single tradition, but I like some of the over-the-top antics that happen at usually coronation. Who was it? Just a couple kings ago, one was carried out by pallbearers. And when you rode in on the sled,
That was big fun.
when Master Richard came in for one of his elevations on the flying carpet, I like those things that, even though they're not period historically correct, they're over the top and they're memorable.
And again, that goes back to you having fun, and that's all that aspect of you're having fun when you're doing this.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the best part about traditions too, is it almost, so many of them almost get forgotten as to what started them. They just, that's the way we do things. Like do you know why we crown ourselves?
I'm trying to remember. I think I know some of the story, but I probably don't know the actual factual story.
We'll hear it again. Let's hear it.
So,
Your Majesty.
The actual story as to why we crown ourselves is when we broke away from the West Kingdom to become our own kingdom, the King of the West didn't show up to the event.
Okay.
Our first crown had to crown himself.
Okay.
And so a lot of us like to play off that now. Like I generally have always come in and demanded it, the crown.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I told Craven I'd wrestle him if he didn't give it to me.
Now that would be something to watch.
I would watch that.
Are there any traditions that you would like to see be put away forever and ever?
Anything else?
Not necessarily a tradition, but there is something I would like to see less of. And it's not an Atenveldt thing. It's not a kingdom thing, but garb snarks.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I am definitely one. I want to go more historically accurate myself, but I'm one of those people also that if you know what you're doing is not historically accurate, I'm fine. But there have been too many times, too many stories where people have been attacked or chased away.
Yeah.
And that's not acceptable. It's a form of bullying that needs to go away. So not a tradition, but something I would like to see less of.
100% agreed on that.
And you, Your Majesty?
So, favorite event?
Okay.
Favorite event? I truly enjoy Estrella. I like being able to, leave the mundane world behind for a week, and just not even have to think about it. Go out, set up with friends and just have a great, memorable time for a week. And that really, and for me, that actually relaxes me for the whole year. That is one of those things where it's really, I can just unwind from the world, but, put my phone away, but, work away and just go have fun. and then meet new people there, because especially with, you have all the different kingdoms that show up, and you get to meet all these different people, talk to them. Like when the Swedes come over, talk to them, go out to their parties, and just see different perspectives and the different dreams that everybody has that come to this group.
I don't have one particular event. I do love Estrella, but I like the ones where I can be a little more immersive. The ones where we're outside in an environment where you don't know if it's the 11th century or the 21st, or you maybe an older church that you can imagine might have been built in the 1600s, with the stained glass and such, because that just, I feel time shift when we're there.
I really wish we could have events in castles like they do in Europe. I think that's amazing.
Wouldn't that be a fantasy?
Right? So if you could describe your perfect event, what would that look like?
Well, we do have one we wanted to do this 2020, and hopefully we'll be able to do it before we step down. I wanted a mask ball, something similar to like that Ever After, where they wore the animal masks and there was food and dancing. I think something like that would be fun and different. Not something that we need to do every year, but once in a while.
Different is good.
The masks might be different.
Yeah. That's the fear. So hopefully we'll delay this a little longer. So more of the fun masks.
Right. You might have to do both.
True.
So have you guys had the opportunity to go to any events out of Kingdom?
Yeah. I think I'm the only one that's gone out of Kingdom. And the event I went to was Potrero.
And you got twice?
No, I've only gone once.
Oh, I think
the other time got canceled.
Oh, right. Okay. That was this year.
That was this year. Yeah. But yeah, I went out there, and we went out as a group of Atenveldters. I think there was about 15 or 16 of us. And that was it from Atenveldt that went. And just having that camaraderie of that group of fighters that go out there for their war to fight and have a good time, and just see the differences in how we do events, how we do wars, how we do our fighting. That was it was a great time. It definitely makes me want to do more out of Kingdom events, just to really sample how everybody does things.
And that was one of our goals for when we were B&B. We wanted to hit Great Western and Gulf and Pennsic, Battlemore, all of them.
Yeah.
Those are all really good events too.
So good news. We generally go to all of those events. So we'll introduce you to everybody.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Make sure you have a great time. That's one of the, I've gotten to the point where I almost enjoy out of Kingdom events more than in Kingdom events. Because that's when I can truly relax. I don't have a job. I'm not in charge of anything. I just get to go and make friends. And I've over the years have built so many bonds outside of our kingdom that's my opportunity to spend with those people. So
yeah.
And then just the camaraderie with the in-kingdom people, like when you're out there. Like you said, you had at Potrero. It's like that at any out-of-kingdom event.
Yeah, it's really special.
Yeah.
And you end up getting to know people from your own kingdom that you might not have known that well, but you spend a week camping with them.
You know pretty well now. So what does it mean to you to be a peer?
You want to take that first?
Take your time.
I think it means you have to. You're an example. You set the gold standard. You are there to, but you're also there to help facilitate others. It's no longer about your dream. It's about other people's dreams.
Yeah, you're from my perspective as a peer, it would be like Val said, you're leading by example. You're showing through your actions and through your either your art, your fighting, your service of what a peer is, of what it is to be at that level. But at the same time, not only are you showing and being an example, you're also reaching out and helping others that have, those potentials or that want those other things, and showing them the path, showing them the way of, okay, if you're interested in this, do these things. And then not just letting them flounder about it, but saying, oh, but let me show you this. Let me show you that. Let me introduce you to this person or introduce you to that. And having that helping hand to guide them through the process or to where they finally want to be.
As well as following up to make sure that now that they've had the introduction, they're continuing to get their needs met.
Yeah.
So what would you like to see from the peers that you think would improve the SCA?
I have seen a lot that has motivated me through the pandemic. We have a lot of our peers reaching out and doing very creative ways to keep people involved. A lot of virtual events, a lot of podcasts, videos, challenges. So I think what they're doing right now is what I would like to see from them.
Well, and what they're doing is what is guided my just like I finished saying, my thoughts about what a peer is. I mean, because you do see them. You do see Master Raven trying to get a virtual 50-year going, so that there is something. We don't have to necessarily wait to be back in person to celebrate that. And to see everybody else, as an example, Your Majesty's, these podcasts, these Inquisitions that you've started. These are the things that keep us as an organization together, in touch. And yeah.
And when we are in person, for us, we see a lot of the people normally in our barony. Master Robert the Silent comes out every practice just to see if someone shows up. And if there's a new person that's even remotely interested in rapier, he will gently persuade his wife, Mistress Livian. Livian has done how many thousands of oleanders?
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think she's up. I don't know. It's
more
4 or 5 digits.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's also not necessarily something that is in the forefront in your face. It's those gentle things that are behind the scenes.
And I'll tell you, those oleanders, I was, before the world ended, I was contacted by a lady across the country who said, gosh, we didn't know about this. And, this was our first Estrella. And so we didn't go to Grand Court because, I mean, let's be real. Grand Court's boring if you don't know what's going on, right? And she says, is there any way to get these? Like, this is the coolest thing ever. And of course, we can get those to you, right? I thought that was really special. It's something that Estrella has that I haven't seen anything like that at any other war. And I personally love it. I think it's super cool. Anytime that we've been crowned for Estrella, I'm on the computer talking to all the other crowns that are coming, like, you better get on the field. You want one of these things because they're a different color when you're crown or princess, right? So, those things, I totally agree. They're wonderful additions to this. I have another question. Okay. So neither of you are peers yet. Wolff, I know that you have a knight, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's an obeyance until I step down.
Right. Valdisa, do you have a peer?
I do not.
Okay. So my question to you, because I know I have opinions on this, I know he's got opinions on this, but when you stepped up as Baron and Baroness, or Baroness and Baron, I'm assuming that you gave your belt back to your knight. So what are your thoughts on being in fealty to a peer while you are, what was your reasoning?
For me, I can only be in fealty to one person at a time. And I had discussed that with my knight ahead of time. And he was in agreement with that. That I would give the belt back as long as I was Baron. And then when I stepped down, I'm no longer in direct fealty to the king. Then I would take the belt back. But that just because I've handed the belt back and my fealty is directly to the king in this minute doesn't mean we still don't have a relationship, that we still don't talk. We still don't discuss my fighting aspects, but there's not that direct, oh, he needs me to do this, I go do it. It's no, I actually have a barony that I have to make sure that everything's running right. And that takes my first responsibility.
The reason that I asked that, and we feel the same way, honestly, and is because I didn't realize for a lot of years that it's not the same everywhere. And in some kingdoms and baronies, they hang on to those belts through their tenure. And it was such a foreign concept to me. So I'm just interested in what everybody's thoughts are about it, because it's one of those where I just thought everybody thinks this way. And
yeah, it's a given. That's what you do. It's
right.
fealty to one person at a time.
Yeah. And clearly not everybody thinks that way. So I find that sort of stuff kind of fascinating. So thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it even goes a little deeper too, because technically you outrank your knight now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be a weird position if you were in fealty to him.
Yes.
So.
And in front of him in line.
And he says there was a conversation. It was really like, this is going to happen. I totally agree. And that was about it.
That's not a bad thing. I mean, I feel like that just means you two are pretty well in tune with your thoughts on the matter.
They really are, Your Majesty.
So you've got your work cut out for you as B&B until we can start playing again. But it also means that you've had lots of time to think about it. So what are your big plans to lead your barony when we open things back up?
A lot of it is going to depend on the calendar and how we're able to open back up. So I think things are constantly in flux, but we will be out there encouraging people, trying to facilitate, making sure they're there, whether that's hooking people up with rides or phone calls.
Yeah. Well, and then just focusing on growing the baronies. A lot of my big plans are about trying to link into some of the community colleges around here and with the history departments, and really seeing if I can link in with the history departments to either do events there. Even if it's not any of our fighting arts, we still have so many of the crafting type things, just our garb. Some of our pilgrims in this kingdom are absolutely fantastic with garb and what they have. And even if we can't do our fighting, we could still do those things in there if we could link up with them and have a demonstration or just a day where we could get there and get the interest there. Because if we can just get somebody to come out to our practice and see our fighting, see the other aspects we've had, there's a good chance we'll hook them in. And that's what we need to do, is we need to keep doing that so we keep growing.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we're lucky about in this day and age is that you can actually bring a laptop or a tablet, and you can actually, even if you can't actually have the fighting, you can show the fighting, you can showcase it. I actually wish we had better video of how much pomp and circumstance happens at our crowns now with the heralds and the boards and the drummers. Before the beginning of each round, when all the pairings are put up on the boards, and then they build all that suspense before they flip the boards. Yeah, I wish we had better video of that, and then some of the fighting. That would be a great tool. I have to try to make that happen in the future.
But yeah, so that's a lot of our plans. It is focusing on growing the baronies and then growing the kingdom as a whole.
But I would kind of argue that I would also want inclusion because.
Well, yes, that I would think that's sort of.
I don't want to make anyone that's currently playing feel left out.
Well, of course, yeah.
Well, yeah, the trick is to make them feel empowered to take the ride with you and
sir.
help include and get them to help include and pull people in with you.
Yes.
So.
All right. You all have anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about?
You've got the floor. You've got the forum.
You have anything, babe?
I have a few things. Why don't you go ahead?
I'm good.
Your Majesties, I would like to know what your favorite out of kingdom event is.
Oh, stop.
Mine, huh? I'm actually torn between Battlemore and Great Western.
Why is that?
So we went to the very first Battlemore, and for a long time we hadn't missed one. When we had a couple of scheduling conflicts that have caused us to miss a couple of them, but that first Battlemore, I learned a level of hospitality that I didn't know existed in the SCA. I'd gone to out-of-kingdom events, and you're just there, right? And people will say hi to you, but we walked around Battlemore, and you couldn't take 2 steps without somebody coming up and shaking your hand and saying, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you for coming."
Nice.
And I remember coming home and being like, we need to do this at Aten.
Well, we're doing it wrong.
Why are we not doing this in Australia? We want people to show up to Australia. Why are we not making them feel welcome when they get here? And so that's kind of why it's got a special place for me. But I really enjoy the fighting at Great Western.
Yeah. Actually, I do have one aspect.
Pickup field in the last 5 years, they've had the best pickup field of any war I've gone to. So,
interesting. Okay,
it's and at this point, so many of my Outlander friends go to that one too. That it's one of the only times that I get to fight with my friends from the Outlands. So it's Atenveldt and the Outlands fighting together instead of against each other. So it's kind of fun.
Nice.
And for me, I think it's a toss-up between Grand Outlandish, which is in the Outlands in May, and it's just it's a baronial event. It's not a small baronial event, it's big. It's sort of on the scale of Highlands.
Oh,
okay.
And just fun, mostly because it's not our fun, right? It's not our job. Yeah. And so you can just go and he can fight, and I can sit in classes or just sit there and watch fighting and not be feeling like I have to do a thing. It's very relaxed and kick back, and the nightlife is a lot of fun. So it's a toss-up between that one, and we had the opportunity to go to a couple of West Crowns, and I really enjoyed those, except for the really hot one that was hot. But the event itself was kind of amazing to see, just how different they run a crown list, and there's still all the pomp and circumstance and all the heraldry and the very romantic sort of feeling of the day. And so I really enjoyed that as well.
Oh, nice.
So Outlandish is kind of interesting because it was originally the Principality tournament when the Outlands was still part of us.
Oh, okay.
That was the event where they had their tournament.
Their cornet tournament.
Cornet. So, and they've just continued from there. They've just continued to have an event.
And it's not too far away.
Yeah, it's close. 6 hours.
Yeah. Actually, I do have one last piece. I would like to start looking and talking with the other barons about doing more multiple baronial events. So I know we all do our own baronial things, but we don't have that many events where we're actually doing things with our sister baronies as well. So I would like to foster more of the working together and just with our sister baronies and getting used to encouraging our populations to go to those other events as well. but have them, like bringing back Baron's War. I know we lost Southern that was going to go to another event, but bringing back Baron's War, have that again. Look at doing that. And I do want to start doing some of those things to make more of the inner kingdom type of events to do.
I would tell you one of the things that might help is start by just inviting them to be at your events.
Mm-hmm.
Just, hey, you come to my event, bring your populace,
Yeah.
Don't make them feel like they have to be part of it, like running it and anything. Build that camaraderie first. It will make the other part of it easier.
Yeah, because I know we've Sundragon and Atenveldt are pretty good about doing that. And now I like to reach out to some of the further baronies and really foster that and make it reciprocal. We're going, like you said, we're going to their events, they're coming to ours, and make it a big deal for the whole populace to understand. Yeah, I mean, we're supporting each other.
I love it because it helps reduce how insular groups can get.
Yeah.
So I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. Well, when we were B&B like a minute ago, we used to do that. We would say, we would tell our populace, hey, we're going to this event. Let's get carpools together. Let's get as many of us as we can to go to this event. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, I would tell the B&B of that barony, hey, I'm expecting you at my event. And tried to build that. And it actually worked. I mean, we had quite a bit. There was a lot more travel happening amongst the baronies. So,
yeah, and I'd love to see that again.
We would support that.
Yeah. Any other closing thoughts?
I think that's about it. All I have.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining us. Lovely to get to talk with you both tonight.
Get to know you a little better.
Yeah. And
thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're looking forward to when we can actually all be together again.
Yes.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you so much.
You.